Hello and welcome back to Was It Worth It, the video game review podcast by SharcTank Media. This is Dane.
And I'm Tim.
And so we are filming this as sort of a bonus episode to sort of bridge the gap between our first season, which we wrapped up a couple months back, and the second season, which is upcoming. The release on that is to be announced. Now, we're kind of changing up the format here a little bit. Our original idea for the show is actually to give you more of like a quick and dirty outlook on how we felt about the game, so we can just kind of get straight to the purpose of the show, which is to let you know if the game is worth the money. We're going to give that a shot here. Tim, what game did we play?
This time around, for this bonus episode, we played Transistor, the second game by Supergiant Games. It is a sci-fi isometric action game with RPG elements. It sets you in a cyberpunk, almost utopia more than a dystopia.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Future, a digital world that is a world that is almost Tron-like in how you're not sure if it's reality or a video game.
Right. Or not, if not a video game, then just like the inside of a computer.
Yeah, some sort of simulation.
Yeah. All right, so to get right into it, we'll run down some quick categories and how we felt about each of those categories or game aspects, starting with the art direction, the graphics, the visual aspect of the game. It's beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's really nice to look at, and especially following Supergiant Games' previous game, Bastion. They really, not that Bastion looked bad by any means with what they had. They did a good job with that, but man, they really stepped it up. I mean, this game stylistically is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really breathtaking, and they do a lot of not just the isometric 3D art, but a lot of two-dimensional photographic type art, and it just looks It's breathtaking. I already said it. It's phenomenal.
The artist, what's her name? Gen Z. Oh man, yeah, she does a fantastic job with the 2D art, the sort of the shading, coloring.
Perspective was fantastic, and there's
the colors. Oh.
Yeah, there's nothing more we can say really other than it is great.
It's a really nice looking game. So moving past graphics.
So the gameplay was pretty unique in that you could play it like a traditional action RPG, but then there was also a mode called Turn. Now, the Turn is a specific function, and there's a lot of computer programming analogies where all of your abilities are called functions. Turn lets you essentially pre-program some abilities that you want to use, which you will use in almost like a bullet time. Like everyone else is frozen in time, and you get to use the abilities, but then while it's on cooldown, you just get to run around. Or there's really specific abilities you can use, but mostly you're just running and hiding, waiting for your turn to regenerate.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it really adds a lot of strategy to it because you have to, choose in what order you want to use your specific abilities, which enemies to use them on, and there are a lot of abilities to choose from. I mean, you have 4 at one time, but there are a lot more than that you can kind of customize out your deck of abilities, and you can even use the abilities you're not using to add elements of those abilities to the abilities that you are using.
Right, so there's 3 different ways you can, so to speak, equip a function. You can equip it as a usable ability, you can equip it as a passive ability, or you can equip it as an upgrade that augments one of your usable abilities.
Yeah.
And there's 15 total that you can choose from.
Eventually you get to the point where you can even use 2 to upgrade a single ability at
exactly.
one time. It's really cool.
It's really in-depth, and the neat thing is there's these challenges that aren't part of the story. They're just kind of like extra challenges for you, but they force you to use different abilities. Basically, it'll be like, here you get these different abilities, you have to kill this many guys in this amount of time, or you have to survive for this long, and that kind of stuff. So it almost forces you to use the different abilities.
Yeah.
Added onto that is the fact that the way the story is presented to you is each function represents a person that was absorbed by the transistor, as it's called, your weapon, the digital soul, so to speak, of this person, and you get their bio by reading about that function. And to get the whole bio, you have to equip that function in every possible way that you can.
Which is cool, but at the same time, it can be a little bit taxing, and we can move on to the story.
Yeah, it's neat in concept, but I think it really suffers in execution. I think the story really suffered from that because, we talked about Bastion being Supergiant's first game, and one of the things that made Bastion so popular and so well done was how the narrative was seamless in the gameplay, where you're playing and there's a narrator and he's talking, and you don't even realize the exposition is happening. You're just playing a game and the narration, and you're learning the plot as you play.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite in Transistor. You have to stop and read these functions, the bios that come with these functions to actually understand what's going on in the story, because all of the narrative that happens in-game is really vague and cryptic, and you don't really learn a lot. The game is meant to be mysterious. In fact...
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that. I mean, Tim finished the game. I played about 40% of the game, but from what I played, I actually enjoyed the mystery, and it's one of the aspects of the game that really strongly made me want to keep playing, because I kind of wanted to learn more about the story and see what was going on. It was fascinating to me. I mean, I loved the character Red. I wanted to know who the man was who was trapped in the sword. I don't know if it pays off. It sounds from what Tim told me that it might not, but I did like the mystery.
Well, the mystery is there. I guess for me it got really frustrating that you would consistently get purposely cryptic pieces of information,
Sure.
which this character knew more and could have told you more but chose not to, and there was no reason not to other than to create mystery. And also sitting down and reading all the bio information that comes from the functions was tedious to me. It was an action game. I wanted to keep the plot flowing, you know what I mean?
Right.
It just didn't. I don't think it went well with the way the story was being told.
I think that's fair to say.
The ending of the game was fine. The story itself is when you get more pieces of it, it's cohesive and there's nothing wrong with it. There's no giant plot holes or anything. I just think they told it in a way that didn't engross me. So in the end, that could have been a really significant ending. I kind of had lost interest by that point. So for me, it was fine, but it wasn't a particularly compelling ending.
Sure. I mean, I guess I can't really touch on that because I didn't finish the game, but I'll take your word for it. So I guess the last thing that we can touch on is the music and I guess the sound in general in the game. I think similarly to the graphics and how the graphics are really gorgeous and how they really fit this sort of weird digital utopia, the music kind of fits right in the same vein, in my opinion. It's kind of a combination. It has very nice kind of smooth sounding electronic elements while also mixing in organic elements to it that I feel really fit the theme of the game.
Exactly. A digital organic world, you know what I mean, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's something to be said about the entire, direction of the game in terms of both art and music, and I guess the story as well. It's almost like they managed to really weave that idea into everything and connect it all together, which is really impressive for, I guess, technically an independent operation.
Yeah, and, they left a lot of mystery in the story, so there's a lot of questions, and they used it, like many artists try to do, they generated a lot of discussion, which in their case, maybe that's what they wanted to do. So let's just get on to our verdicts then. For me, I was struck immediately by the beauty of the game. The way it looks is just completely gorgeous, and the gameplay is really fun. I felt like the story was a little lacking, but I kept wanting to play. In fact, I had almost more fun with the challenges, because to me, combat, because of the planning system, combat felt like a puzzle, and that was really intriguing to me.
How about the length of the game?
I think the length was good enough for a $20 cost. It was about 6 hours of gameplay.
Sure.
If you
That's
do all of the challenges, and there's a new game plus. I don't really know why someone would do it, but I guess people are doing it.
Sure.
For me, it was definitely worth it at $20.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar experience to you, and I mean, we don't always agree fully on games, but in this case, I think we really mostly agree. I mean, it's a beautiful game. It's really fun. I agree with you. Actually, it's a really good way of putting it, that doing combat and having to strategize and pause and, use your turns does feel like a puzzle, which is really cool because it adds that right into the action where you're going from fight to fight to fight. It doesn't really slow down unless, like you said, you have to stop and, read the bios and whatnot,
Sure.
But that's just an aside. I only played about 40% of the game, and even then I can tell that this game is easily worth the $20. And you mentioned it's 6 hours in length. I've played $60 games that are 6 hours in length, like Gears of War or whatever.
Right.
Granted, those have long multiplayers or whatever, but in this case, especially with all those challenges you can do aside from the story, I mean, yeah, it's definitely worth the $20. Transistor is an awesome, incredible follow-up to Bastion.
So that concludes our bonus ode for you guys. Let us know what you think about the more streamlined delivery in a shorter episode and whether you want us to continue with that.
Yeah, I mean, we wrapped up a really mainstream, in-depth game like Transistor in about 10 minutes. We're kind of going to try and do this from here on out, just really get through it as quickly as possible for you. Hopefully this will be enjoyed more than our old format. Let us know, leave some comments, like or dislike. You can comment either on the actual YouTube video or on SharcTank.com, that's Shark with a C, and let us know, and we'll be back eventually and kind of keep it going just like this for more games in the future.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.